This is a very common, documented, normalized, expected area of research where when people are dying and they're on hospice, loved ones come to help them cross over. It's like a very real thing. And, I've said to you, Fern, so many times, the same divine whatever that's giving us those experiences of love to help us die also come to help us live when we suffer loss. It's the same dream maker or God or whatever it is. There aren't two. And so our loved ones come to help us die, and then they help the bereaved after they're gone. It's the same end of life dreams and visions. It's the same thing as a visitation dream. It's the same thing.
Welcome to Signs from the Other Side with Fern Ronay. I'm your host, Fern Ronay, and this is the place to share stories of signs and messages received from the other side. Real quick before we get started, if you enjoy reading about signs and if you enjoy fiction like Bridget Jones and Sex and the City, you might enjoy my books, Better in the Morning and Better Believe It. And if you like this podcast, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe in Apple Podcasts and tell a friend too. Thank you so much for listening, and on to the show. Elizabeth Bryan-Jacobs, artist, author, and art therapist, helps participants of her Awakening Dreams Work program connect with their loved ones on the other side through dreams, dream visits, and nurturing a spiritual relationship with them. Dr. Susie, a practicing physician for many Hollywood patients and professor to UCLA medical students, is also an artist and has had a lifetime of experiences with such things as crazy synchronicities and channeling messages from the deceased. And now she's currently exploring how these wildly different aspects of her life may actually come together. And they, Elizabeth and Dr. Susie, are together on this episode because they are friends and they have had some adventures. So everyone listening, please stay tuned because we are going to talk about some wild and wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things. You had what's called an SDE, as you call it, with your mom when she passed, if you could describe that.
Actually, Elizabeth gave me the name for it. I didn't have a word to describe it. I'd never heard of anything like it. My mother and I had had a very troubled, tumultuous relationship growing up. She had a lot of emotional problems, and she was very suddenly very, very ill to the point where she was resuscitated back from basically a cardiopulmonary arrest. And my brother was an ER doc. He and I were at the bedside, and, 6 days went by and they kept trying to extubate her, to get her off a ventilator. And she just couldn't breathe on her own. This was at the start of the pandemic. I'm pretty convinced she must have had COVID. We didn't know. But we couldn't get her off a ventilator, and they started talking about doing a trach and transferring her to some pulmonary rehab hospital. My brother and I knew that my mother, there's no way. And she was suffering so. Get it out, moaning every time we saw her. We were at her bedside constantly in the ICU. So we made the decision with palliative care that we would make her comfortable. And we kind of sat vigil. My brother, my husband, my kids, my nephews, my daughter, my son. She was stubborn. I mean, it must have been like 14, 15 hours. It was about 2 a.m, and I was sitting with her at the bedside, and I was holding her hand. And I just had the strongest feeling that she just couldn't let go. Everybody else was dozing off. The lights were off in the room. And all of a sudden, at the foot of my mother's bed, I was not asleep. I was awake. But it was like I was awake in a dream. I can't explain it. I can tell you that it was a blue-white light shining on her and me. I'm sitting at the head of the bed, from the foot of the bed. And it's like I knew what it was. And I said, Mom, all you have to do is fly like a bird. Just let go and fly. She wasn't going to have anything to do with that. And then I had this image it was like standing at the edge of a swimming pool with a child and telling them to jump. And I said, Mom, all you have to do is just step off into the water. Still didn't want anything to do with it. Then there were these rolling hills, and sitting in these beautiful rolling hills was her favorite aunt and cousin. She didn't move. There were other scenes I kept seeing, and I couldn't get a reaction until all of a sudden my parents were divorced, but my mother was very close to my father's parents. We lived in the same house in Queens in New York until I was 8. Aww. And my grandparents, my Nana and Papa, were standing there. They were holding hands, and their other arm was outreached like this. And I laughed to myself because behind them there was a casino. And my mother loved gambling. And I felt her start to let go.
When she was actively passing and you were seeing all of these things, what a scene that is. So everyone, you're not alone in the room, but they're all out of it, or, dozing, and you're witnessing these things while holding your mother's hand.
It is not something I have ever had happen to me in my life. And I was kind of speaking softly out loud, according to my husband. I mean, I was awake. I was sitting up in a chair. I was gesturing. I mean, Elizabeth called it a shared death experience.
Which is a thing.
I haven't read about yet. It was kind of indescribable.
Yeah. Wow. And so your husband heard you, but he didn't know what was going on. It was like this thing between you and your mother that only you two were experiencing.
And when she saw, in my vision, when she saw my grandparents, I looked over at her. I swear, I'm not making this up. Her eyes popped open and then closed. Now, that will sometimes happen as people are, but just that second, and it had been a long time. She was like on hour 13 or something of morphine. It was bizarre.
Yes.
And then she died.
And then she passed right then? Yes.
Well, a couple hours later.
Okay.
I went to sleep. She waited for me. After that whole vision thing, it was probably like 3:30 in the morning. And I fell asleep in a chair in the room, and my husband woke me up at 5:30. She's gone.
Yes.
She waited for me to leave go to sleep.
Oh, I have such cold chills because, again, for context, I don't know if you've talked about end-of-life dreams and visions. This is a very common, documented, normalized, expected area of research where when people are dying and they're on hospice, loved ones come to help them cross over. It's like a very real thing. And, I've said to you, Fern, so many times, the same divine whatever that's giving us those experiences of love to help us die also come to help us live when we suffer loss. It's the same dream maker or God or whatever it is. There aren't two. And so our loved ones come to help us die, and then they help the bereaved after they're gone. It's the same end-of-life dreams and visions, the same thing as a visitation dream. It's the same thing. And so Susie had this very extraordinary experience of being in her mother's end-of-life vision, which is like, you can look it up as shared death experience. It's like a thing.
Yes.
So
wow. What a thing to experience, though. I wish more people were able to experience it. It must have been, would you say it was healing?
I really can't quite get my arms around it. Yeah. It was so powerful. I can't even categorize it. It was incredible.
Yeah. I feel like there must be this aspect of like, she didn't want to go when she saw certain things. And it's kind of like you send your kid off to kindergarten and they're crying, they're upset, but then they make a friend and they're like, okay, now I know they're happy. She saw the in-laws that she loves, and you must have felt like, all right, like that made her happy.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
there was a huge sense of relief about her finally being willing to let go
Right.
for something. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That's true. The following week, I was out at a friend of mine's. She invited me out to her beach house. It was after we buried my mother. I need to tell you that I buried my mother with 2 bunny rabbit stuffed animals because she loved bunnies. And actually, my whole life, she drew this cartoon that I called Bunny Eye because it had big eyes. Every birthday card had Bunny Eye on it. And so it felt very fitting to put the 2 stuffed bunnies that she loved in her coffin. So a few days later, I'm at the beach house, and I wake up early in the morning, uncharacteristically, before my girlfriend woke up. And I walk down to the living room, which looks out over, the sliding doors. There's her yard, and then sand dunes, and then that goes down to the ocean in Malibu. And I'm looking out the window, and a bunny rabbit came running from next door, stopped directly in line with me where the path goes to the ocean, and then turned its body and ran up over the sand dune towards the sea.
Wow. Miss Draw the Bunny Rabbit shows up on the beach.
Since when are bunny rabbits on the beaches?
My girlfriend said she's never seen a bunny rabbit in Malibu on the beach.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, if that's not a sign of my mother telling me that she's moved on,
yes,
I don't know what is.
And that she's still, because she's still here and watching you. Not he, obviously, but watching you.
Right.
Because I know you would say you probably have a better relationship with her now.
Oh my gosh.
Art therapy, yes. Very healing.
Thanks to Elizabeth.
Yes.
Well, that healing arc was unbelievable, Fern, because Susie's early dreams of her mom were very frightening and anxiety. And I mean, there was a lot there. And, she showed up again and again and again. And we would look at, it was a childhood thing, or it was something that happened when Susie was a teen that was very, very traumatic. Specifically with her mom, she had a dream of her mom when she was a child, that her mom had 2 heads. I mean, this was a long history of very difficult dreams your entire life. And eventually, through the work we did together, and it included a lot of image making from the dreams. That's very specifically what I do, is we make art from the dreams. And then all of a sudden, her mother is showing up in the dream and helping her find her keys. And that's very specific, because a key, it's a metaphor. It's here I'm helping you find your keys, or I'm helping you get dressed and clothe yourself. Her mother is suddenly showing up as a helper. And
as a mother.
As a mother. I'm condensing the timeline because this took a couple of years. But the final one, Susie, share with Fern the final one.
I actually, for some reason, I can't remember the details of it other than, and it didn't occur to me, other than I had photographs and I was giving of my mother, and I was giving her framed photographs of her. Yes. And it didn't even occur to me until Elizabeth pointed out, you've reframed your relationship with your mother.
You've reframed your mother.
Yes. So in the dream, you like the pictures in the frame were all of your mother, like of your mom in the frame.
Yes, and she was younger. And she looked healthy and beautiful. Wow. And Susie's literally, you said to your mother in the dream, you said the words, I've reframed this to give it to you.
Yes.
You did.
Oh, right.
I remember.
You're right.
I have a chill.
No, me too.
Yeah. And
wow.
and I said, oh my God, you've reframed your mother. This is unbelievable.
Yes. And practically speaking, how does it manifest in terms of, you have a difficult relationship with your mother and it's hard to think about memories or things. But when you've healed that, they're on the other side and you have a better relationship with them now, there's that healing that occurs when you think
Yeah.
of memories, are they just less painful? Is it
Oh,
what does the
yeah.
healing look like?
The healing looks like my allowing myself to remember the warmth, the actual maternity of my mother, instead of writing it off as all horrific experience. I have a much more balanced perspective of who she really is, what her wounds were, and I'm able to frame it more as, but she had terrible mental illness. It's actually huge, the shift from not even being able to think about it without feeling sick.
Right.
It's hard for me to think of my mother.
And I
Right.
think that there was also a lot of, I'm just jumping in, a lot of guilt.
There was.
Because, you want to take care of her, but you can't because this relationship is so awful
Oh,
and
yeah.
anxiety. It's gone.
And yeah.
Yes.
It's
Wow.
gone. And now she's very present. Like she'll show up at different times. So does Susie's father in her dreams, and we'll go, oh, this one's not symbolic. This is like really her. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you with the
Yeah,
fly.
yeah.
Yes.
It's
like a
very,
real
you can
visit.
totally can tell the difference if it's her showing up or if it's her symbolically doing some inner mothering.
Right. Wow.
I'm not a religious Jew by any stretch. I'm Reform. And I had a dream that I was in my synagogue and I was listening to a small seminar and a rabbi was conducting it. And I was showing a young prospective congregant, I was trying to give them an introduction to this synagogue. And I was upset because there's one rabbi that I really love, and I've known her in real life for 30 years. And I said, I wish you could hear Rabbi Michelle. And then in the dream, I text Rabbi Michelle, who's in another classroom down the hallway, in the dream, conducting the same seminar. I text her, Rabbi Michelle, I need to speak with you. And I didn't hesitate to wait for her to respond. I stood up, I took the young person I'm touring with me, and I stood outside the classroom where she was conducting her seminar. I just knocked on the door. She opened it without hesitation. She said, Susie, you ought to give the other rabbi a chance. And I said, no, I want you. So then she proceeds to walk with me and this young prospective congregant, and we're showing him the temple, and she opens the door, and inside was a massive indoor swimming pool. And the guy that was with me goes over, puts his hand in it, and the water's warm. I tell Elizabeth the dream, and she's talking about levels of consciousness, but what she says to me is, Susie, you have to call your rabbi.
Like now.
Like right now.
Right.
And I happen to have her cell phone on my phone because I've really known her over the years, but I hadn't seen her in a long time. I texted her. She texted me right back. I said, I have to tell you a dream that I had about you. And I proceed to tell her this dream, and she immediately said that I needed to do, I don't know if you know the term, a mikvah.
Is it when you do like a cleansing?
It's a ritual bath, which I would never do. Reform Jews don't. Orthodox women will do it after their period or during major life transitions. And she told me that that's what I needed to do because where I stood, this was in October, is where I still stand, kind of. I was ready to have a grandchild. My brother is on hospice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm shifting my life's work.
So there's a birth and a death also. Her
Right.
daughter's about to have a baby. And
Oh,
so
wow.
it's a huge time of transition. And
Oh,
the
wow.
dream comes and I say you've got to call the rabbi. That's it, because Jung had a colleague, her name was Marie-Louise von Franz, and she said if you dream that you're baking a cake, bake the cake. And so this is the directive for anybody. I mean, Obviously, if you dream you're jumping off a cliff, you're not doing that. But in this case, it was so clear that Susie needed to call the rabbi. I knew right away. I said, "You've got to call the rabbi."
Have you ever done a mikveh before?
No. And what's so bizarre is she was just about to go on sabbatical. She arranged it. It's not like one of these hypotheticals. You should go to a mikveh one day.
Right.
She actually arranged an appointment, and she drove there a week later, met me there, and you have to take off all your, no jewelry, no contact lenses, completely. And I actually immersed myself in a mikveh. It was dark. She took me through there are three immersions. The first was about my daughter, the second was about my brother, and the third was about my life. But it was so healing. And still, what I took away from it was the feeling of letting the universe suspend me. The water seemed ultra buoyant, and I just was being held.
Yes.
I wasn't floating, I was being held.
Yes.
And so it was profoundly healing. And then I painted it.
Yes, I saw it. Amazing. Amazing.
That was what you saw was a quick iPad
study.
Sketch.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I loved it.
But I actually painted it in oil and gave it to the rabbi as a gift.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. What an experience for her, too. Like, it must be so...
Yeah. I
like she
think
must have
it
felt
was.
so, like this is important and she's doing what she's meant to do. Yeah.
But it's such a incredible example of dream guidance.
And if people wanted to admire your art, they can find you on Instagram at Susie White with a Z Mandel.
Susan White's Mandel, probably.
Okay, it'll be in the show notes. Okay.
It'll show up.
It'll come up. Okay. And I'll put it in the show notes. And Elizabeth, where can everyone find you and all of your amazing work?
Awakenings, thank you. Awakeningsdreamwork.com, of course, my website, and Awakeningsdreamwork on TikTok.
Perfect.
And, I'm launching a Dreamwork journal that we'll talk about the next time. But I'm very, very excited. Okay, well, why don't we chime out with a few deep inhales and exhales to kind of help us come back up to the surface. And know that even a tiny bit of breath work is just so grounding and dials back our minds and brings us back into our body, into awareness. And so, Fern, I'm just going to say a huge namaste to you for sharing Susie and for sharing the extraordinary relationship that she and I have in this beautiful, safe, sacred circle podcast. So from my heart to yours, a big namaste.
And
Namaste.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Signs from the Other Side. You can find me, Fern Ronay, on all social media at Fern Ronay, Ronay. I love hearing from you and I love hearing your stories of signs. And if you would like to hear more episodes of this show, please be sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts. Thank you again and sweet dreams.